Hi everybody, Vince August here. It is Friday, September 11th, 2020, and I'm going to give this a shot. I don't know how it's going to come out because this is just going to be stream of consciousness. But I guess if you're 25 years old or younger, and especially if you didn't live in the tri-state area and have anybody personally affected, or maybe DC or in Pennsylvania, today is a day you remember just older people just being glued to TV, maybe parents, aunts, uncles, whoever, just watching TV in quiet horror at what unfolded. If you lived in New York City, obviously, or DC area, you were more affected by it. And if, you knew people or had family or friends that were, that died on this day, obviously you were even more affected by what this day means and is for many of us. And for me, for years, I vowed to never work on September 11th after it happened because, I tried to use this day as a day of reflection. I refused to come to my office. I refused to do comedy shows because my thought was always, there's more important things to do. And if you gave all of those people a choice, the last thing they would have done that day is go to work. I think about, a family friend, Jack, who was at work that day. And, the last thing he did was he called home. He just wanted to talk to his wife. He wanted to talk to his kids because he knew what was inevitably happening. And I always think about that. And if he gave Jack a warning, he wouldn't have gone to work that day, obviously. Then I heard about another story from a friend, Annie, whose brother that summer was putting in for jobs and trying to get a job. And he finally landed a job on, talking to a guy where at a bar he worked. And he started a job on a Monday, and he came home and he told his sister how thrilled he was about this job, how cool everybody was in the office, and he couldn't wait to get back to work. And sure enough, the next day he went to work, and it was September 11th. His first day at work was September 10th, a Monday. His second day at work was September 11th, and he never came home. And he went and did what he called the night before going to the happiest place he had ever been. He said, this is the happiest I'd ever been. And that sort of changed my perspective. And then over the years, I started to think about 9/11 as, what? No, don't necessarily choose to not work. Do whatever it is that you love most. And I happen to be lucky enough that I have a career that I truly love. It's my passion. It drives me. It gives me motivation. It gives me reason. So I started changing my approach to that. And that's really what made me think about this morning, how for the last 6 months, many of us have not been able to do that thing that we love. Maybe it's work. Maybe it's something as benign to some of you and insignificant to some of you as going to the gym. Maybe it's just getting your hair and nails done. Maybe it's going out to eat to your favorite restaurant. Things that have since been closed that you really enjoyed doing. And that made me think about how, during this pandemic, how other people were calling people selfish because people wanted to do those things that they truly enjoyed. And they were being yelled at because someone was calling it dangerous. And you know what? You want to do those things, and that's a dangerous thing, and you're selfish, and you're this, and you're that. And it turned into this name-calling thing. And I thought to myself, wow. When 9/11 happened, the months after 9/11, we never heard of division. There was no talk of race. There was no talk of differences. Because the bottom line is, one, it would have been absolutely inhuman for anyone to take that approach, even our media, as disgusting and vile as they are as corporations. It would have been horrible for them to do that. But secondly, it's because there was none of it. There was none of it. The only talk of differences, whether it was race, religion, color, anything, was about how people helped each other, and no one cared. No one cared what anybody was. Nobody cared if somebody was a Democrat, Republican, Muslim, Jew, Christian, black, white, Spanish. No one talked about the race of firemen or cops or anybody in the bucket brigade. Nobody talked about any of that. In fact, there was never a discussion about the people that died on 9/11, the flight log, and what race makeup they were. Never talked about. Today in 2020, that would have been probably the first thing, because the media just loves to do that. They love to just want to highlight all of that stuff. But the truth is, that's who we always are as a people. We're the people that followed 9/11. And if you don't believe me, well, then look at our history. Because when it happened with Hurricane Katrina, we did it again. We rallied again as people. We did it with Superstorm Sandy. We did it with the Boston bomber. Whenever there's a tragedy in this country, we rally around each other. Regardless of who's the president, regardless of our politics, regardless of how much the media wants to twist and portray it as something it's not, we always come together. And this year, for whatever reason, the opposite happened. The opposite. And I'm still going to contend it's because it's an election year. But if you don't need any more than what I just explained to you today to realize we need to stop, I don't know what more of an example you need. Because in the end, you know what? What we are as Americans is the people that make up America. We're not defined by our leaders. We're not. And if you say, yes, we are, because that's who represents us. No, that's complete and utter bullshit. Because if that was the case, then you would define Germany in 1946 by its leadership, and it would have been irredeemable. But as you can see, Germany was not irredeemable. And you could say the same for Japan after World War II. You could say the same for, a lot of countries. You could say the same for Vietnam. You could say the same for Korea, North Korea, South Korea during that war. You could say the same thing about us in the way we've destabilized the Middle East. You could say about every country and how they fought wars around the country. If you're defined by military action and defined by leaders, then eventually everybody would be irredeemable. But the fact of the matter is we're not, because it's not our leaders, right? Do we define all Cubans by the Fidel Castro regime? No. You define them by the people that come out of there. You define it by who are the actual people in the country. And I'm here to tell you, if you don't see today and what happened 19 years ago, and whenever there's a tragedy in this country, as what truly defines us as people, when we come together and we help out not only Americans, but the world, if you don't see that that's who we are, and not what the media or politicians shove down your throat to divide us, I don't know what to tell you. And listen, I know there's millions out there that have bought into the division. You've bought it. You own that stock, and you're going to die with that stock. And listen, that's you. You have to do you. But I know in my heart of hearts, because I've seen these events, I saw the buildings on fire with my eyes, not on camera. Okay, I've seen these events, and I've seen the way people react. And I haven't been down to the World Trade Center since. I haven't been there. Won't go to that museum. Won't go down there. Won't do it. Can't bring myself to do it because of the memory I have. And part of that memory is the people helping one another. That's who we are. Let that define us. So you know what? When people want to go back to normal and do things that bring them happiness, that want to live life, you can call them selfish, or you could just look and say, these are people that just want to live. They want to live. And I need to be sympathetic to that. And I'm going to explain that, I'm afraid to live like that, and we're going to find a way to coexist. But I'm not going to try to stop somebody from doing something because, you know what? It brings them joy. It brings them happiness. And if we find out that science is wrong and maybe there wasn't a danger or whatever, even more reason. So you know what? It's time to let people live their lives and their happiness, and for me not to judge. And it's time for us to be what we are at our best and not let people tell us who we are at our worst.